Alright, today's video we're going to go over weights for speed. So we're going to talk about how weights can help you or hurt you in your process of becoming a better athlete and moving better on the field or court. My name is Josh Olsop. I'm the Director of Sports Performance here at Klemic Performance Method. I've been doing this about 10 years and I work for Dave Klemic, who's former Kansas City Chiefs fastest man, and he's been doing this for 20 plus years. So this is kind of a culmination between his and I ideology and what we've done. Now you may be asking, what do I know about weights? We're a sports performance facility with zero weights, but we still do supplement weights with athletes. I started my journey in the weight room. I was 175 pounds. I could deadlift 500 plus on a straight bar. I could box squat over 500 pounds. I was very, very strong in the weight room. I was doing good mornings with 225. I did all that, and my ideology, or my kind of start of sports performance, was with Westside Barbell, reading all of Louis Simmons' books and kind of diving in from there, getting into super training like pretty much everybody else, and then applying a lot of these concepts to myself and other athletes I coached, and seeing what things are actually applicable to have these satisfied outcomes. So, weights 101. You either got this route right here, bodybuilder Larry Wheels, you look sick, you go to the beach, people think that you're an athlete, people think that you have a lot going on, people think that you move well, and they see that and they go, wow, this is a very healthy person. They probably do things very good in sports. The unfortunate thing to that is that you don't. This video right here, for some reason, isn't letting me play it, but it's a video of Larry Wheels running a 40-yard dash, and it looks absolutely terrible. It looks like he's never done it before because he hasn't. He's worked his body in an isolated format. Whereas you look at the guys right here on the right, if we take the athlete path of weights, these guys did less weights and more sport-specific training. And this video of Jamar Chase just shows how fluently and easy he makes running at high speeds look and changing direction while he's focusing on a ball, catching, and 1,000 other things going on around him. And he still makes it look effortless. He still makes it look easy, right? So coming down, that's what we just talked about here, is isolated parts versus tuned engine. It's like if I were to take a Honda Civic and I put a supercharger on it, that engine's going to explode and it's going to get hit with 1,000 different codes on the dash saying that things are misfiring, not working, braking, etc. Versus a fine-tuned engine, which is on the right, which is built for the exact task that it's meant for. Okay, it's like, again, an easy analogy is drag car versus drift car. Like if you want to go straight, right in a line really fast, drag car. If you want to move through the mountains and be more agile, drift car, right? And things are built in different ways to do different things. The same thing is true for your body. Excuse me. Now, the most important thing to understand before we dive into anything is everything has an adaptation cost. Meaning that whatever you do, your body will adapt to, and you will pay the cost of that, whether that is recovery, whether that is bigger muscles, whether that is the way your body fires and functions, you're going to pay a cost. So the first main idea that you have to wrap your head around when training for sports is mass-specific force. If what you're doing is not adding to the amount of force that you can create relative to your body weight, it's not worth doing, in my opinion, unless you need to gain weight, which is a whole nother conversation that we'll dive into on this channel. Mass-specific force really means adding the most amount of weight to the bar without adding much body weight, if any at all. And this can be done very easily if you just know how to do it. So if I'm 175 squatting 300 versus 175 squatting 450, that's a huge difference that will actually be able to be seen on the field because I'm the same body weight. So I took my body, I tuned it to output more force, my central nervous system is firing higher, and that is how I'm actually going to become better at sports. I apologize for the coughing, I'm a little sick here. We got programming and why. So absolute strength versus rate of force development. Somehow it's a typo in there, just ignore it. And compensatory acceleration. These are the three main things I think you need to know about. So programming for absolute strength. So when you first get into the weight room, you need to get stronger, right? Because absolute strength you need to think about as your ceiling, and then rate of force is everything underneath. If you have a low ceiling, you have a low rate of force production output. So if I can only bench 135, why am I trying to create more force faster with only 135, right? Because my percentages below that are so small and the weights are so light that I shouldn't even be worried about that. I should first be thinking about increasing my ceiling, my absolute strength. So think about absolute strength as your 1 rep max. You need to be able to get stronger consistently in the weight room. Apologize here, I'm getting sick. But we need to go with absolute strength first. And the way that this is programmed, I'm assuming that you have a general strength background, like you have a general base in order to do this. But you're targeting things more as like a power lifter. So this means using compound movements, taking 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 sets with low reps and resting maximally in between to stay within the ATP and phosphagen system. This is going to allow for your strength to be the highest set after set after set. Whereas if you stick by the basic 3 pi 10, you do 3 sets of 10 on bench, or 3 sets of 6, or 3 sets of 8, or 3 sets of 3 even, but you have a short period of rest, meaning 2-3 minutes, you're not going to be the strongest you could possibly be getting back on that bench. Your body didn't rest and recover fully. How do we know that? Again, the energy systems. They take a certain amount of time each in order to fully recover. The ATP and phosphagen system is around 5 minutes if you're a 180-pound athlete. If you're younger, it's a little less. If you're older, it's a little more. That's why kids can just sprint all the time, because they're younger. It replenishes faster. The older you are and the stronger you are, and the more your CNS outputs and the more ATP it's using, the longer you have to rest. Next thing there is rate of force development, which if you're strong, you should be working rate of force development, meaning lighter weights, faster reps to train the central nervous system to output faster. And lastly is compensatory acceleration. So we don't want to lift like a bodybuilder or even a power lifter. Slow and controlled is not the way. We're not after time under tension. In fact, it's the complete opposite. We don't want time under tension. We want concentric and eccentric choices, which I'm going to get into now. If you want to work within the realm of MSF, mass specific force, you need to be focused only on the concentric phase and not on the eccentric phase for a number of reasons. Number one, the eccentric phase is where the muscle gets damaged most. So when I'm bringing the weight down and that muscle starts stretching and elongating again, those tears start to happen under tension, those micro tears that lead to bigger muscles. Secondly, if you're a sports athlete, you do not want a slow and controlled eccentric. You want to train your body to load extremely fast, not slow and with a large amount of weight on your back and you're stability based. You do not want that. You want fast eccentric loading. So when you lift weights, I'm not telling you to fling the weight down and just let your body completely collapse. Like obviously there's a degree of control that you need, but what we're really after is that concentric push, which leads to exercise choices, right? Like if you look at in a weight room, box squat versus free squat. Box squat is a concentric dominated exercise. Why? Because you're eccentric, you don't need to load and keep everything under control. You kind of just go down and sit on the box. Separates the eccentric concentric chain just like sprinting. While you sit on that box, energy dissipates. And then you push up as hard as you can from a hard state because you have no system of the stretch shortening cycle. So when you free squat, you can bounce out of the bottom and you can stand up and you can squat, versus a box squat where you sit, the weight stops, you stop, the energy dissipates, the stretch shortening cycle dissipates to a degree. The better athlete you are, the longer that stretch shortening cycle will sit there with you. But then you stand up and it's a concentric base lift, versus a free squat where you're all the way down, all the way up. Larger time under tension with the free squat, less concentric dominated, meaning that concentric push, which is so important in sports, and you're not training your body to load slow and under control in a free squat versus how you would in a box squat. And what this is going to do for you is, again, work on your concentric strength, your push strength, and it's also going to do it that is less damaging to your muscles, so you're less sore and you need less time to recover from that movement. Now, a deadlift is the same thing. A deadlift is strictly from the floor. You lift and you drop. You lift and you drop. We have no eccentric loading within a deadlift, which, again, is why it's so great for concentric forces and why it's pretty good for sports performance. Now, there's a ton of people that'll tell you that deadlift is terrible and you can never do it and people get hurt doing it, which I don't disagree on. I'm just telling you some options here. The other thing, too, is full range of motion in the weight room. If I'm squatting for full range of motion, I'm an idiot, to be quite honest with you, outside of once you get your general strength down, because sports and running and sprinting and acceleration even are 90 degrees and above. I don't need to go, as they say, ass to grass on this movement. Again, I'm teaching my body a pattern of power that I don't want or I won't use. Therefore, it's useless in my time and recovery. The other thing I want to hit on with this, that's, I think important is, again, when you're in the weight room, you're pushing through your heels consistently. And you go to sprint, you go to work, and you do everything on a field or a court through the ball of the foot. You're rarely ever on your heels. You're on your heels for strictly standing and stopping alone, right? So if I continue this pattern and I use it instead of a supplement, I just do it all the time, and I'm consistently in the weight room trying to build this strength, and I'm not sprinting along with it, or I haven't yet put sprinting in as my main adaptation or my main stimulus, well, then your body's going to adapt to creating power in that way. And it's not going to have the carryover that you want into that fine-tuned ending. You're going to start to look more like isolated parts like Larry Wheels. Everybody in America has that strong linebacker on their team that all they do is lift weights, and then they get on the field, they move like a robot. That's not how you get to the NFL. NFL players don't look like that or move like that. And the other misconception here is everybody looks at NFL players as a freshman in high school and go, I got to look like that. I got to gain weight. I got to get in the weight room right now. Whereas, like, there's a couple of different things that go with that. It's nuanced, but first off, the NFL player has insane genetics. You are genetically not probably capable of holding that weight. Some of you are. And those of you that are capable of holding that weight, you know right away when you're in high school, the first time you lift a weight, you get bigger, faster than everybody else. You just become more muscular with less work, with less volume, with less weight even. Right? And then the second thing here is they see that and they go, I have to be that, and they try to be that within a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. This is a grown man who went through 4 years of high school, 4 to 6 years of college, lifting consistently. It takes time to build that strength. And if you want to try to gain weight and build all this mass and build all this muscle and have that take your main priority of adaptation, you're artificially adding weight, which is what muscles is. It's stimulus. Your body responds. You're adding weight from a stimulus. It's in a way artificial. And then your body needs to take a hold of that weight and go, okay, what's going on? How do we supply this muscle with resources? How do we use this muscle? How do we adapt? I'm gaining weight. Am I pushing fast? Am I getting faster? The answer is most likely no. That's why it has to be within this mass-specific force umbrella. If you're gaining weight extremely fast and you're not getting stronger with that, how can you expect to run faster or jump higher or move better on the field? Now, one thing the weight room is extremely good at is strengthening, in my opinion, the low back and the posterior chain. Now, the posterior chain gets a lot of work from sprinting and jumping, and so does the lower back. But being able to get into the weight room and target specifically the glutes, hamstrings, and lower back as one unit, which can be done on the GHR, on the reverse hyper, even in some compound movements, you're able to really get into triple extension faster. And I've seen a lot of people make gains in their broads and vertical leap by creating a stronger low back within the weight room. It's one of my favorite parts of the weight room is being able to get on a GHR, load up some plates on your chest, 3-4 plates. I go crazy and I just work on pushing through the pad and getting my glutes, lower back, and hamstrings to fire all at the same time, which is how they would in sport in that movement of triple extension. It's not exactly the same, but you can make it very close to that in the weight room. And it's something that you should all be using in the weight room, that lower back specifically, because you can really get stronger faster, and it'll very quickly make gains for you out on the field when you're running or jumping. And to put all this into summary, when you're looking to get into the weight room, you have to know the reason why. Okay, that's the first thing. And it may be for some of you general strength. Like if you're in high school, you just need to get in and you need to put a barbell on your back and you need to go and you need to move. But if you're looking to add to your game, or you're looking to have a good offseason or improve the way that you run and move on the field because you want to get recruited, the first thing you need to do is start sprinting and jumping, because that is the most applicable to your sport. That is how your body functions, through the ball, the foot, creating power, taking on forces, and pushing. And here's the other thing. Is one of the most underrated ways to get faster in the weight room is sprinting. If you sprint faster, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're outputting more force in a shorter period of time. That's how it works. You only have the amount of time that your foot is on the ground to produce force. That's why I discard squats as any metric worth noting. If you can do 315 or 405 and you're not at an absurdly big body weight and you're doing close to 2-3 times your body weight, you're strong enough. Now we need to work rate of force, because again, you only have the amount of time that your foot is on the ground to produce force. So if I'm outside of that window of time and I'm doing that often, it's not necessarily applicable. Now, some people will tell you that, well, the stronger you get, the faster you can move lighter weight. Yes, in some cases. But if you're not working the direct skill of rate of force development, you're leaving gains on the table. And some people will go like this, and they'll make it even more complicated. They'll be like, well, why do I need to sprint if I can just go in the weight room and track my barbell speeds? Why would you track your barbell speeds if you're going to be sprinting on the field? Go sprint and disregard the barbell speeds. Or go do the barbell speeds on a rainy day where you can't sprint. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, in summary, know why you're in there. Understand that mass-specific force is the most important thing, especially for your skill position guys. There's some bigger guys that'll watch and say, yeah, you need to gain some weight. You need to do more reps. And the truth of higher reps, bigger hypertrophy is relative, or more hypertrophy, more muscle growth is pretty true, because muscle growth is mainly off of time under tension, right, and progressive overload in weights. So if I progressively overload and I add more volume and I add more time under tension, then I will obviously have more micro tears or within the fibers, and I'll gain more muscle, provided that I have the necessary sleep and nutrition to go along with it. But if you stick in the mass-specific force umbrella and you stay within concentric only compound movements, you're going to have less muscle damage. And if you want to go into isolation and isolate a specific muscle group, try to do it in a way that most replicates what you want it to do. Like if I'm sitting here on quad extension and I'm sitting on a quad extension machine, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be Saquon Barkley next year. Like, you're an idiot. Your quads, like, that's not even how your quads really work on a football field. You know, like the way that the extension happens, or a baseball field even. Like, yeah, you got a bigger muscle, and, you know, a bigger muscle has the potential to potentiate higher and give you more strength output. But if you continue to program the pattern of just doing quad extensions, like, your body's not going to recognize a new pattern and be good at it. And that's like the other thing. If I sit here on hamstring curls all day and I just rip isolated hamstring curls, like, I'm not going to gain much in sprint speed, because that's a movement that is isolated. I'm getting very good at that movement of that angle of my leg on the pad. My body's doing it over and over and over and over again. And then it goes, okay, let's recognize this pattern. It's very similar. We're going to get good at this. It's like throwing a baseball or football. You keep throwing a baseball, you keep throwing a football, you get better at it. It's anything. But you can't just get better here while you stay the same here. So you need to balance out how you program and what you do, and understand that if you want to be an NFL receiver or a Division I receiver, the first thing you got to do is run fast. So the first thing that you need to start training is running faster. And that needs to be your dominant stimulus. If you stay in the weight room all year round and you only sprint when you're practicing football or running routes, good luck. If you have any questions, let me know, comment below. I'm here to answer them. We're going to be outputting videos on a daily basis is my goal right now. So